Let's speak to Deven Ghelani, who is founder of Policy in Practice and an expert on welfare policy. Deven, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Henry.
Hi. So it would appear that we're in something of a Groundhog Day here. Every few years, a government or a minister comes forward and says, we're going to reform the welfare bill. We're going to get it down and we're going to look after those people who really need it. But a few years later, a new government or a new minister says the same thing. Where are we here?
Well, there are lots of different ways of trying to save money from welfare, and all of them involve taking money away from incredibly vulnerable people. So, as you're absolutely right, it's a very difficult thing for a government to do. I think there's a shift in rhetoric, which is kind of much more around supporting people who need that help and putting supportive reforms in place, making sure people in receipt of disability benefits today can access employment support without risking losing their disability benefits. And I think if you can get that message out there, that's probably one of the few things you could do that could kind of change the lever. But I think kind of some of what's been announced today is coming off the back of a government that's there's £3 billion worth of savings penciled in. It sounds like every single department I'm speaking with is in for a very difficult spending settlement. So if you were to reverse these reforms that were kind of planned and baked in by the previous government, you'd need to find £3 billion worth of savings from somewhere else. And I think that's the difficult position that secretaries of state often find themselves in. They have to make savings, often in the least bad way possible. And that's the question for the Secretary of State today.
Right. And what about the previous government's plans to reform work capability rules by tightening eligibility? I would imagine that the current government, the new government, will want to follow that, if not necessarily by the letter, but certainly in the spirit. The question is, how do you make sure that the people who do or could work actually come forward and say, yep, you mean me, I'm going to come forward if you give me the help?
So I'll just outline those proposed changes first. So firstly, you've got two different types of disability support. You've got the work capability assessment, which is there to help people who are unable to work. And then you've got kind of just support because you've got a disability, like personal independence payment. So what they're saying is you'll be able to get that support for work-related issues if you're getting that support for a disability-related issue. But there are a lot of people, around 400,000, over 400,000 people who are getting that support for work who aren't getting that support for a long-term disability, probably because they were long-term sick and may not have kind of that kind of disability, but they're deteriorating or all sorts of issues, really. So it's that group of people that aren't getting personal independence payment that are going to lose out. Now, I think there are a couple of risks with this approach. One is that people in that position, frankly, ought to see if they're eligible for personal independence payment. And that's actually going to cost the government quite a bit more if people do apply and people are successful. So it's kind of one of those things that can work the other way, is kind of almost as Tammy Gray, as we heard Tammy Gray Thompson, Baroness Tammy Gray Thompson say earlier. So it's a very difficult position for the government to be in. I think they've identified almost the wrong. So one problem they've identified is the work capability assessment, which is not loved by anyone. It's a reform that causes immense stress to people who are going through it. It doesn't actually save us any money because more people end up getting the kind of more expensive level of support anyway. And a lot of people who it's wrong a lot of the time. A lot of people are successful on appeal.
Yeah, on appeal, so, that's right.
It's getting rid of it is probably the right thing to do. But in terms of what the problems really are in the system, it's that we're iller as a nation, ill health. We need to keep people in work for longer. And we've created a binary system where either you're in work and you're able to work, or you're not able to work and you can't work again.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of people who get sick and could get better. And the proposals Policy and Practice have put forward are along the lines of a beefed up statutory sick pay system. So employers have a stake in, when people are off sick, getting them back into work as quickly as possible and making sure people get that support without being kind of written off.
Well, let's wait and see what emerges. We've got the headlines today, but of course we'll get much more meat on the bone in the following weeks and months. Deven Ghelani, who's founder of Policy in Practice, thank you very much indeed for joining us.